So, what if a single deal for one small piece of technology could completely reshape a country's entire economy? Well, that's the billion-dollar question facing Bolivia, and we're about to break down exactly how it might work.
It sounds a little crazy, right? Almost too good to be true. But stick with me here. This isn't science fiction. We're going to dive into how a small, pretty unassuming piece of hardware is at the heart of a massive financial and energy plan for the entire nation of Bolivia.
But to really get why the solution is so important, you have to understand the problem. And it's a huge one that actually plagues energy grids all over the world, a multi-billion-dollar leak.
Think about it. The electricity you're using right this second traveled a really long way to get to you. And just like water in an old pipe, some of that power always gets lost on the journey. For a lot of countries, that's just, a cost of doing business. But for others, that leak turns into a full-blown national crisis that costs billions.
And that brings us right to Bolivia. It's a country where this energy leak has slammed right into another powerful force: rapidly growing demand. Just look at this chart. The data from the International Energy Agency tells a really powerful story. Since 1990, Bolivia's electricity consumption has just skyrocketed. We're talking over 380%. As the country develops and more people get access to the grid, that huge surge in demand puts incredible pressure on a system that's already struggling.
So this gets us to the technical problem at the heart of all this: transmission losses. The best way to think about it is exactly like this: a leaky plumbing system for the whole country. Power gets generated at the plant, but a huge chunk of it just disappears before anyone can ever use it. And we're not talking about a few small drips here. These are massive, really costly gushers.
And here's where you can see the scale of the problem crystal clear. Globally, the average for electricity lost in the grid is around 8%. Bolivia is losing 13%. That's more than 60% higher than the global average. And every single one of those percentage points represents millions and millions of dollars in lost revenue and wasted potential. So you've got this rising demand for power, and you've got a system that's leaking like a sieve. This is where a really game-changing piece of technology enters the story.
The solution is a device called an ESS, which stands for Energy Saving System. You can basically think of it as a smart pressure regulator for the electrical grid. It smooths out the flow of electricity, and it stops the surges and the fluctuations that cause so much of that energy to be wasted as heat. It just makes the whole system way more efficient, right from the moment you plug it in.
And let me be clear, this isn't some unproven gadget from a startup. This tech is already being used by industrial giants like Samsung and Hyundai. These are companies that live and die by efficiency, so the fact that they're using it is a massive vote of confidence. And the results from these installations? They're incredibly impressive. You get the 10 to 15% savings on electricity for sure, but the stable power it provides can also make your electrical equipment last up to 3 times longer. Plus, it cuts the country's carbon footprint and helps prevent dangerous blackouts. It's really a win-win-win. Okay, so we've got a massive problem. And we have a proven solution. The next logical question is, how on earth do you roll this out across an entire country? Well, that brings us to the deal itself. Now, this might look a little complicated, but the core idea is a classic public-private partnership. To put it simply, you have a private fund that provides the cash, $1 billion. You have a technology company that provides the hardware, 1 million of these ESS units. And you have the Bolivian government providing a guarantee, basically co-signing the loan, which makes the whole deal possible in the first place.
And the price tag for a project of this scale? A cool $1 billion. That's the total investment needed to get the hardware and get it installed all across the country. And that $1 billion buys a truly massive rollout: 1 million individual ESS units. The plan is to put them everywhere, in people's homes, in big factories, in government buildings, to tackle that energy loss at every single level of the grid. Now, here is one of the most clever parts of the whole deal structure: a 3-year moratorium. This is essentially a grace period. It means Bolivia doesn't have to start paying back that loan for 3 whole years. That gives them plenty of time to get all 1 million units installed, and for the financial savings to really start rolling in. So the project is actually designed to start paying for itself before the first bill is even due. Pretty smart. So all of this leads to the most important question of all, right? What's the potential payoff? What does Bolivia actually get for this $1 billion investment? Well, the projections are Honestly, they're staggering. Even if you take a conservative estimate, say just a 20% reduction in energy loss, the Bolivian government is projected to save $2.5 billion over the next 10 years.
Let me put that another way, because the return on investment is just incredible. For every single dollar spent on this project, Bolivia is projected to get somewhere between $3 and $5 back in savings. For a national infrastructure project, that kind of return is almost unheard of. And this isn't just about saving money, it's about unlocking brand new potential. The project is expected to save 2.4 million megawatts of power over 10 years. That's a massive surplus of energy that can be used to power new industries, to connect more homes, or even be sold to neighboring countries for extra cash. This all speaks to a much bigger national vision. There's a quote from Bolivia's own electric plan that says it all. The goal is to become the energy heart of South America. By plugging the leaks in its own system, Bolivia could transform itself from a country struggling with energy loss into a major energy exporter.
So ultimately, what we're seeing in Bolivia is a powerful blueprint. You take proven technology and you combine it with some really creative financing to solve a massive national problem. And it leaves us with one big question to think about. Could this be the model that unlocks sustainable growth for developing nations all around the world?